the start of the January 2026 season in Marvel Snap, Shou-Lao is taking over the meta, and you need to know what decks are strong, what cards you should be picking up so you can accelerate your climb to Infinite. Welcome to Marvel Snap Meta Shenanigans. Let's dive in so you can get out there and crush the ranked ladder. Hey, what's up everybody? Kicker of Elves here. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day wherever you're at. Welcome to episode 5 of Marvel Snap Meta Shenanigans, the weekly show where we take a look at how the top players are shaping the Marvel Snap metagame so you can understand what's being played, what cards are good, how do I get ahead in this ever-competitive landscape. Each week, we take a look at some of the top win rate decks using untapped premium data along with my own opinions peppered in. You can never just blindly follow the data. You need to look at it qualitatively as well. Then we take a look at our 2 most recent Series 5 card releases. How are they holding up? Our 2 season pass cards for the month. Then we cap things off with our viewer card of the week. If you'd like to get your card looked at on the show next week, please leave a comment below. Pick any card in the game as long as it's not one of those cards that falls into the other category, season pass cards, recent Series 5 cards, and the comment with the most likes will get featured in next week's show. At the very end of that, close things with my thoughts on the overall metagame, some quick deck recommendations, and then at the very end, for the real ones, those who want to stick around to the end, we're going to turn back to the wall of trinkets and goodies and review a little bit of Kicker of Elves lore. So stick around for that if that interests you. Without further ado, let's take a look. So this being the first time we've done an episode of the show in the first week of the season, we're not going to look at just infinite statistics for most of these cards. What we're looking at is we're sorting by win rate for decks with 1,000 plus games in player rank 80 to 100 plus. So we are including some infinite with player level collection level 24,000 plus. This is our way of making sure, because there's just not a lot of people in infinite right now. Not a lot of speedrunners like myself trying to do it in the first 2 or 3 days of the season. But by looking at 24,000 plus, we're able to see these are people who are maybe not fully collection complete, but competitively collection complete. They're not like, well, I want to play this deck, but I don't have Sam Wilson. And by filtering to 80 to 100 plus, we're cutting people who have either not started playing that much this season or have at least gotten through that initial, 75 to 80 bracket. So let's dive in. The top win rate deck right now is the, for lack of a better term, the Move Many. This is the Iris move list. Iris, phenomenal player with the Thing Fantastic Four first steps. I recently did a deck guide on the Move Many archetype. I think ultimately, in talking with Iris on Discord, she has said that this deck is really based around doing Thing first step stuff, and it is not the best Betrock deck, so you have to be a Thing first steps gamer. If not, this is something where you could swap out Miles and Thing first steps for a card like Red Guardian for Miles and Prowler for Thing 4 first steps. I'm a big Prowler gamer. That's the route I've gone in, but this deck, absolutely phenomenal. This is a feels good deck to see here, because as we'll be talking about for most of the rest of this video, a certain red dragon has really started polarizing the meta. And then immediately at only a slightly different, 0.2% difference on win rate, this has turned out to be the dominant Shou-Lao, the Undying deck, where this is the, Sizer really brought their shell together. There was a lot of hype about, we're going to cut Annihilus going into the new season and bring Shou-Lao in here. But the best performing deck that's running Shou-Lao, at least at these filters, includes Sentry and Annihilus. I absolutely love this deck. This feels very much like a toolbox where it's I'm pulling out specific cards to solve certain situations. Quake can do some crazy stuff with Nexus, Bar with No Name, or just important locations onto a Cerebro. Maybe they've gotten cocky about not playing into a certain location and they're not bringing out their loot cage. Quake does that. Iron Patriot for value. Werewolf by Night. I'm a huge Merlin Werewolf by Night fan. I think as funny as, if you've been watching these videos, you'll often hear me talk about my distaste for old ongoing Zabu or Wiccan, because that's been synonymous with tech slop decks in the past. I love Merlin Werewolf, and Merlin Werewolf has kind of become the tech shell. So you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. But if you've got Shou-Lao, and I strongly recommend if you are a season pass buyer, to not wait. Get it in now, play a Shou-Lao while you can, because this card is so strong, it's definitely going to be nerfed. Another deck coming up here, number 3, Majestic Wingbeat. This is a zombies deck. You got Lockheed showing up in here, Shou-Lao. This is zombies deck using some of that stuff to, get some spells out there with Majestic Wingbeat and the Hunger. I played a little bit of this deck. Stats are good, and also should have probably said this at the very top, but because we're looking at pre-infinite data, there are going to be bot games in here that are influencing things. There's not a ton of bots as there were in seasons, or like a year ago there was a lot more bots. You just hear anecdotally, I'm not seeing a lot of bots on the climb. Even I didn't see a ton of bots on my climb to infinite this month, but so just take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I think this is a great iteration on the zombie stuff. Zombie Scarlet Witch, Zombie Giant Man. You are even squeezing in the Zombie Mr. Fantastic, Lockheed for a little pew pew. If you're hitting Zombie Giant Man or Shou-Lao the Undying with Majestic Wingbeat, you're in a really great space. Shou-Lao coming in here is kind of an alternative Zombie Giant Man, makes for another great target for Absorbing Man. So you can either go Zombie Giant Man, Absorbing Man, Zombie Giant Man, Shou-Lao. You can see the top end here. Very powerful stuff. Last two decks we'll talk about here, V-Hand Wiccan. I've made my distaste for Wiccan very clear in the past. I don't love the play patterns. I don't love missing a 2-drop or a 3-drop and seeing him fizzle out in my hand, but this is a very powerful deck. I like the Stardust. If you are seeing Nimrod gamers, if you are seeing people doing Silver Surfer combo action, Stardust just shuts that down outright. You play him when you need it. 4/6 is it's kind of bad stats. You never really want to play him out if you're not using it. But I'm trying to be optimistic here. V-Hand. I do not care for V-Hand. I like using V-Hand on the hot location yesterday. I'm filming this Thursday night. But anyway, if you've got these cards, you haven't splurged the season pass card. It is nice to see decks like this and that appearing at the top. Just real quick, this version is just even more teched out. This is the sort of stuff. I'm just glad to not see Eliath in here. Really, I see Wiccan down turn 4. I think, God, do I need to worry about getting Eliath right now on turn 5? Eliath's not in here. Got the Galactus First Steps. The V-Hand combo is a bit interesting just because there's not another way to copy V-Hand. Typically, you want to get more than one V-Hand going, especially at a 2/2 stat line, but these are all pretty good numbers. With that, let's talk about last week's Series 5 card release, Fantomex. That feels like a whole lifetime ago. Fantomex has a sub 50% win rate, decent cube rate, and that makes sense. From what I've played of Fantomex, I think this is a bad card. Do not get them. There are some players, even some very good players, who are like, Fantomex is great. Me personally, I think for the experience of the wider Marvel Snap player base, folks watching this video, if you are playing a Morgan Le Fay Airwalker deck, you are already in cope mode and playing a deck that is just worse than stuff out there. Chances are, if you are deep enough in your collection that you have Morgan Le Fay, Airwalker, and Fantomex, you just have other better decks. Make sure you're doing that instead of Fantomex stuff. This is not a terrible card. This is not unplayable. If you're in love with the destroy discard combination, you can go ahead and do that. To me, the Fantomex, Wild Child, Marrow, Destroy Discard hybrid deck, it feels like the Zombies deck without a Zombie Scarlet Witch. This deck archetype needs a better engine. Fantomex is like the Zombie Giant Man equivalent, but this feels like his text might as well be like, on Wednesdays, if you've destroyed and discarded a card and also bought a tuna fish sandwich from your nearby Polish deli, then you can, it's just, he's asking way too much of you versus just like playing Shou-Lao, playing better activate combo stuff with like Omega Sentinel and Jocasta. Don't get Fantomex. This week's Series 5 card release, Lockheed, very powerful win rate, great cube rate, and I don't know if I'm going to do a full review of Lockheed. I might, but from what I've played of this card, I don't think this is very good. Me personally, looking at these stats, again, we are looking at since the start of the season with, including stats pre-infinite, 80 to 100, 24,000 plus collection level. I feel like this card is going in very good decks and probably being carried by Shou-Lao stuff. When I tried doing the zombie decks, the decks where we're using this and Scarlet Spider, I almost never wanted to play Lockheed. It is a fine card, but kind of similar to what I was saying with Fantomex. I think Lockheed is a little bit better than Fantomex. If Fantomex is a 2 out of 5, Lockheed's like a 2.5, maybe a 3, but I do think the other cards in the decks he goes into, Lockheed goes into better decks than Fantomex. So those decks are going to be fine whether or not they're playing Lockheed. That was my experience. Like, I could play Lockheed, or I could just get I could just get my zombie Scarlet Witch down and start doing that too. I could play Lockheed into one, but let me do this. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. If you pulled Lockheed from a snap pack, you are definitely someone wanted me to read into my credentials. Sorry about that. Didn't see that coming. If you pulled Lockheed from a snap pack, don't be bummed. This is a fine card, but is this one you should spend 6,000 tokens on? Absolutely not. What card? You know, a card that would be worth like 15,000 tokens? It's Shou-Lao the Undying. Look at that popularity. The win rate is actually, according to Untapped, a little worse than Shou-Lao. Shou-Lao is like 50 times better than Lockheed. This has this high of a win rate with almost half of the people reporting this in this data set reporting in. That's freaking crazy. This card is probably getting the Mr. Fantastic First Steps treatment, where at the beginning of February or whatever the next OTA is after he leaves the season pass, he's going to get nerfed. I don't think I don't think this is Elsa Bloodstone bad, where they're going to nerf it in the current season. Elsa being a 2-cost release, definitely expedited this. You do have to do some more deck building considerations. You need to play decks that play 2 cards or more, but that's so many decks. What makes me think this is going to get nerfed is a couple of things. There's never been a season pass card that said +3 on it that didn't get nerfed. Galactus, Surfer, Elsa, they all got nerfed. Same thing's going to happen to Shou-Lao. Additionally, he goes in so many different kind of decks. Spider-Punk, which came out in November, very, very strong season pass card. It can easily be a 311, but it only goes into a specific kind of deck. Shou-Lao is going into Surfer. It's going into Merlin Werewolf stuff. It's going into Lockheed Zombie stuff. It's going into so many different things that it's just the whole meta is being warped around this card. And unlike Maverick, who Maverick and Shou-Lao are very good friends. If you get a Shou-Lao buff onto Maverick, you're very happy. Maverick was very powerful. It is very powerful, but you can shut that thing down so many ways. Shadow King says, I don't care about your 46 power brood location. They all go back to 2. Deafening Chord says, oh, nice Jocasta, buddy. You're not doing that twice. You're not doing Maverick at all. Cosmic Ghost Rider says, there are so many ways. Maverick is very flimsy. Shou-Lao is just, unless you're Cosmoing it, it's doing its thing. It's giving the card you played last. It's giving that Kitty Pryde 9 extra power. This card is insanely, insanely strong. Dragon of the Moon, our super premium season pass card. Again, the decent win rate here. The popularity, there's a couple people playing. If you are a Ronin gamer, go ahead. I've played very little of Dragon of the Moon. I think it is fine. I don't think this is unplayable. I think this is about, it's a 2 out of 5. It's Fantomex tier. But if you're not the person who, like, there's always value in getting the super premium season pass because it takes this out of your Series 5 card pool. Getting another Series 5 card for that is good value. But if you're just like, I only care about getting cards if the power level is worth it, I don't want to spend any resources on stuff from this, then this card's not it. Unless you are a diehard Ronin gamer, for sure. But like, this is like a 3/6, it's just like and it's afflicting your own cards too. It just doesn't feel great. I'll be curious to see how this looks as time goes on, because 55% win rate seems very high for this. Next, let's go into our viewer card of the week. Again, if you would like to get your card read out on the show and looked into on the show, please leave a comment on these video and below on this video saying which card you want me to look into. As long as it's not one of these the season pass premiums card or Lockheed, these 3 are off limits because we'll talk about them again next week. The comment with the most likes will get their card featured on the show. So for this week, we're looking at a card recommendation from Matty H 1442. Hey Matty, thanks for watching. Who said, well, he gave me a nice compliment, but I'll just jump in. He wants to look at Strange Supreme. So Strange Supreme, before I talk about the data here on screen a little bit, I love Strange. When Strange Supreme came out, it was April of last year. This immediately became like, oh, this is one of the best cards of the year. It was like Iron Patriot, Sam Wilson, and then like Strange Supreme was right up there. It was so strong. This was in a pre-nerf Thanos era, and he was like a 220 a lot of the time. Just an insanely powerful card. He got brought down to a 2-1. There was adjustments to Thanos, but even just him going down to 2-1, he just dropped off the face of the earth. But For this view, because he has been out for longer, this isn't a new season card, and he frankly just wasn't a big part of the meta. The data set we're looking at here is the last 30 days, infinite only, with player collection level of 24,000 plus. This view is going to let us be like, here are people who they're not playing Strange Supreme because he's the only Series 5 card that he has. They are likely competitively complete, and they are doing that. The two most popular lists, decent amount of games. I mean, sub 300. The sample size here isn't perfect, but he went into an Aurora shell. Thanos Aurora in both of these. There's some slight variations, like this one's running the Scarlet Spider, which is a cool idea in the Thing First Steps. I think either of these lists are very cool. Ironically, I think Strange Supreme runs counterintuitive to what Aurora is asking you to do. So you're asking, like, Strange Supreme, the reason you're playing Aurora in Thanos is that Thanos' stones are cheap ways to get bodies on the board that meet Aurora's conditions. 2 out of 6 of the stones from Thanos have double text where they're ongoing and on reveals, so they can get buffed twice, which helps you just with your board space and where you need to play certain other cards. Strange Supreme is going to eat those cards and get buffed in turn. So you're losing the go wide for go tall. Strange Supreme is also an end of turn card, so he does fall into the end of turn and activates are the rarer of the card types for Aurora to hit. And yeah, I mean, these both, like, this version over here has a much better win rate, but again, at 290 versus 230, the sample size is so small that you can pick either one of these. But I think Thanos Aurora is a very interesting spot for Strange Supreme. It's not necessarily bad. Like, him and Aurora obviously go together. They want to be doing the same. They want to be in the same sort of deck. But early on, you're going to have to decide, like, okay, if I'm playing out Strange Supreme, my created cards are going to go to him, and I can't rely on them for the Aurora buff. It's harder for me to do Fantastic Four first step stuff. It's harder for me to do Mockingbird stuff over here because he's eating those. But I think ultimately Strange Supreme's home is still Thanos. Whether or not those decks are very good, I mean, a lot of these have such low amount of games played that I would not put too much stake in them. But like Frankie Ray Nova stuff, zombie stuff, people are out there. Strange Supreme's out there. But if you're looking to do stuff with Strange Supreme, an Aurora Thanos shell is likely his best place. So closing thoughts, let me just run down how I feel about this. I think this meta is being very warped by Shou-Lao. There's a lot more talk about Shou-Lao, and we'll probably be hammering back on that over. I'm really curious to see if this ends up being the dominant deck archetype, if people start wising up to how good he is in Surfer. I think there's a lot of stuff that can happen with Shou-Lao before he inevitably gets nerfed. But I also think you don't have Shou-Lao, this deck is phenomenal. You can do Victoria hand stuff if that's your way to do it. I think the zombies without Lockheed and Shoula are still very respectable lists. Another thing just to cover off here, if you don't want to get the new cards, you don't have a lot of the December cards, you are perfectly fine to be playing this version of the Sentry Werewolf Merlin stuff. Like, have Merc Cannonball, have Sentry Annihilus. Those are two amazing packages. You can still move around your werewolf a ton with Merlin Iron Patriot. This is a very strong deck. I don't like ramp. I've come to the I don't like this deck. It plays too much like a combo deck for me and does not have combo out points. I don't like decks where it's like, I didn't draw X by turn 3, I gotta go. I much prefer these kinds of decks where it's like I always feel like I have something I could be doing. I always feel like, okay, well, by turn 2 I'm doing something. With the War Machine stuff, it's just like, okay, I don't have any 2-drops. Or I have Valentina, but I don't have my ramp card. All right, on turn 5, I guess I'm just going to tempo out an Enchantress. Not my cup of tea, but it is a very, very good deck. So I think any and all of these lists are ones that you could check out and play and have a great time. And you can get out there and just speed up your Infinite Climb. I love seeing this at the top. I wonder if, when we come back, because we are looking at stuff from before the start of the season, if this is a little bleed over from the end of the season. And as we get deeper and deeper into this season, Shou-Lao is just going to dominate this list. We'll have to see. But with that is the conclusion of our analysis portion. Right now, we're going to jump over and do a little bit of Kicker of Elves lore before we close out the video. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've got this lovely little wall of trinkets back here. It is decent background for me recording and doing Twitch streaming stuff, but I've actually had it there or that set up for quite some time, and it's just full of stuff that has some personal meaning to me. So I'm going to go over there, grab something, and we'll just talk a little bit about that. If you want to bounce after getting the Marvel Snap information, totally get that. Thanks so much for watching. Hit that like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're getting so close to our 1,000 subscriber goal, and that's going to help us monetize the channel, reinforce our ability to join the Marvel Snap Creator Program. Been a dream of mine for 3 years. Thank you all so much for support. Again, leave that comment below. Let me know which card you want me to feature in next week's video. Top comment on the video will get featured. Now let me just be right back, and I'll pull over something for us to chat about. Hey, all right, we're back. I'm going to go full screen for the lore segment here. We're going to talk about Pavement's Wowie Zowie. This is the band Pavement's third album. If you read a lot of music criticism, which is the most pretentious freaking thing you can possibly say, but there are a lot of prominent critics who would say Pavement is the best band in the 1990s. It is my personal favorite band, and this album, and specifically this very thing, this CD, I came to it in 2011 during a pretty rough period in my life, and this is probably my favorite album of all time. It is very eclectic. I associate it very much with like summer vibes. Pavement can be a little bit polarizing. The singer, even though I love it, some people call it whiny or nasally, but there are so many. I strongly recommend go on to Spotify. Just start with the first album. Just let it play through. There's so many just unique and interesting rock tracks on there. The lyrics are mysterious and inscrutable at times. The vibes are. It'll be interesting if you never heard this before. I wonder if it will just blend with a winter vibe, because for me this is a seminal summer album. But it is a lot like if you're a Beatles fan, the Beatles White Album, where it's like it's kind of all over the place. And that's also my favorite Beatles record. Maybe that says something about me and my taste in Marvel Snap decks too, where I like the kind of like pulling together of all the different vibes to create something, where the sum of the parts. It's more than the sum of its parts. But I absolutely love this. If you can get it on CD, if you're crazy like that, this particular thing came with like an art book. I love still having. It is very good. I've got other Pavement stuff. You can see Terror Twilight over there. Maybe we'll talk Terror Twilight another time. But absolutely fantastic band, fantastic album. Probably my favorite of all time. If I was pressured, I'd probably say that was my favorite. Maybe that or Terror Twilight are like in a wrestling place for my favorites of all time. But I absolutely love this. If I had a CD player, I'd love to listen to this on CD, but Spotify does the job just fine. And with that, let's sign off proper. I already did my little YouTube sign off before, but please please comment if you're not subscribed. If you like what I've been doing, hit that sub button. It means a lot. Comment below about Pavement too, and make sure to leave which card you want me to feature in next week's video. This has been episode 5 of Marvel Snap Meta Shenanigans. I'm Kicker of Elves. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.